both are trying to work out how we can actually give out a demonstration of it, how an NDK-based malware can actually work. So keeping that hunch in mind, I've included this development studio availability. So you can have that available inside your own machine. Now this is one interesting aspect which I've added. With any kind of Android related devices, one of the basic throttle or a bottleneck that comes into picture is you need the device to be rooted. You want to do a bit by bit imaging, you need the device to be rooted. You want to install some specific applications, you need the device to be rooted. You want to configure IP tables, you need device to be rooted. So how you do a rooting? There are a large number of methods, large number of ways in which you can do it. 4 basic exploits which are right now available and could be usable are Rage in the Cage, which was available for 1.6, PS Neuter, which worked till 2.1. Then we had Gingerbread, which was available only to specific versions of Gingerbread, which is 2.3.3. And we have Zergrush, which is right now the latest exploit. Works on the basis of overflowing the log, and is right now working on 2.3 devices and 2.2 devices. Why I have specifically mentioned various version numbers? Because it's not necessary that one rooting script will work for all devices, or your device will actually get rooted by any of these methods. It's not a compulsory approach. There is no one-shot approach that will actually root your device. It depends upon how your device is manufactured, how your ROM is customized, or how your ROM is actually compiled, whether that vulnerability exists or not, it is used or not. We have some APKs as in installable applications, which again works as a rooting scripts. We have Z4 root, we have Super One Click, we have Universal Hand Root. All these applications and stuff are provided inside one folder in Arsenal. So you don't have to go out and look for how to root my device. I've also tried to give out a list of which device is supported by which particular rooting module, and if the device is supported or not. Right now, this will be the URL, sourceforge.net/p/AndroidTamer. It does not contain anything right now, it's blank, but within a week it will have an initial beta release of the VM. I'm just trying to strip down the size of VM because it's right now 3 GBs, which I think is not a good sign for an Indian bandwidth users. So I'm trying to reduce the size, and I'm trying to bring it down to somewhere around 1.5 or 2 GBs, and then I'll push it out. Alright, looking at how the system is, those who are familiar with Android, now the fonts is visible? Okay, yeah. Alright. Some of the basic things, if you look at the path, you already have code source tree available, you already have the SDK tools available, we have the SDK platform tools, NDK tool chain, all these are already available on your path. So you don't need to worry about configuring paths or configuring these softwares. It's already configured on your machine. If you look at the whole Arsenal folder, there are various tools like Android Audit Tool, APK Inspector. We have a large number of collection of binaries which does not have a package, as in they do not have a particular name. They are used as an intermediate binaries. Like you have JAT-GUI, it's used inside all the modules. So all those kind of common binaries are available inside the binary folder. We have Eclipse already configured with ADT and RDS5. We have this kitchen which I was talking about. I'll just give you a demonstration of what we can do with kitchen. Then we have the rooting folder, which actually contains your rooting scripts. Gingerbread, PS Neuter, Rage in the Cage, rooting APKs, and Zergrush. If you look at Zergrush, it contains an executable bash script. You can actually go inside and see what is going on. And you have various files. Wherever possible, I've tried to include the source code which was published by the disclosing authorities, whosoever has disclosed this. So those source codes can actually help you in understanding if you're not feeling comfortable running an unknown binary on your machine. Okay. Kitchen is a product, is again a shell script basically. It's developed by one of the XDA developers. Being a shell script, you can easily look around what's going on and how the things are going in. Initially, you start with creating a working folder for a ROM. The ROM could be anything. It could be a customized version of Android, be it CyanogenMod, or be it MIUI, or be it your own service provider's ROM, or your carrier's ROM. Let's say you purchased an X10 handset from Sony Ericsson, which is actually my own handset. So you just download the actual update binaries. You set it up as a working folder from ROM. Now the second option is where the things start. Now you have a working folder. You just select add root permissions. So this automatically adds SU binary, which is actually the missing part from the routing fundamentals. So it automatically adds the SU binary, sets up various permissions which are needed. So now you have a ROM available which is pre-rooted. You can add BusyBox, you can add various other stuff, and then there is an option, check upgrade script for error or show working folder information. Once these are done, you can also look at various options like add bash, add apps to SD, sign APKs. The sign APK format is you have a system folder. Inside system folder there is an app folder. If you put an APK inside an app folder, it's not something which you have installed. It comes pre-installed with your device. So those APKs need to be signed, so you can do a signing of those APKs. You can create a complete ROM with whatever you want, wherever you want, using this kitchen. And then it actually generates out in 2 or 3 different formats and updates it, which is a conventional format if you have a customized ROM, or an updatable binary which you can push around and play with your devices. As well as, right now this kitchen is not maintained. It's available on GitHub. The developers right now stopped doing the development. He has asked that if someone wants to modify, they can modify it. So those modifications, when being pulled up, you can directly update the kitchen using the update script. So those facilities are available. If you look at the menu, this is a menu that I've provided, which contains various other tools. While doing ROM analysis, you will encounter with various database files, which are basically SQLite databases. You can use SQLite database browser or SQLite Man or SQLite Studio, which are 3 different versions of SQLite data browsers. These are available. DroidBox have tried to come up with a single shot approach wherein you start DroidBox and you are presented with a walkthrough. You just move ahead, see which AVD you want to start. AVD stands for Android Virtual Device, and then you actually select which APK you want to run. Once you select that APK, it automatically pushes the APK inside the AVD, runs it, creates a log, and comes out. AVD would be a bit slower on this because I'm running short of memory right now. You can see this ADB logcat window is open, which is waiting for the device to come up. As soon as the device starts, it will start pulling out various logs which are available on device. Now the point why I've started it out and I have posted it out on source code is, I don't meant to stop at this point. This is just the beginning. I have certain other future usage or future plans for it, which I'm just sharing it out. Basically, as I've already told you, I've configured a repository inside your machine, inside your VMs. So that will be used as a single point of supplying updates. You find a lot of applications like we have Smarty, Bugsmarty, we have JDGUI, we have JAG. These all applications keep getting updated. But once you have downloaded a release, you don't even know that there is an updated version available. That's where I'll pitch in. I'll provide updated binaries through my update repository media. We have various other tools, like there is Ignitio, which is a very good source code analysis tool. Right now it only works on Windows applications. They've recently added the support for Android devices. I was planning to port it to Linux and provide it, but there are some dependencies on DLL because of which I'm not able to port it right now. But that's another future aim. We have a missing forensics section wherein there is one talk which will be dealing with Android forensics. I'll be attending that, trying to find out what tools we can add on the forensics section. And as usual, if you know anything else which you think is cool and could be added to the collection, feel free to write a mail or inform me through any of the medias. I'll be more than happy to add it. And if you want to contribute, I'm more than happy to add new members. That's just the basic about me. Now, any question answers that we have? I think I bored them a lot. Yeah. Best? That's a bit tricky. I'm using a customized, self-customized version of Sony Ericsson Extend default ROM. It's the default ROM. I've rooted it myself and I've customized it as per my need. So I've removed the unnecessary binaries, unnecessary APKs, added my own stuff, and I'm using that customized ROM. Best, there is no such thing as a best ROM. It more of depends upon where does your paranoid level ends. Yeah? I at least would prefer CyanogenMod because at least you can see the source code what is there. You have fully open source codes for CyanogenMod. You can go inside and look at what each application is made up of. That's one. People prefer MIUI or there are a lot more other ROM options. But then you cannot say that this one is a safe ROM. Yeah, you were again by an XDA developer, a customized version of CM7, I suppose. Yeah, but then it's not available for all the devices.
Actually, pushing security per se, like since iPad and iPhone they are using the Android as OS, I just heard in the news actually that Android is not as safe as supposed to be.
Depends on what do you classify as safe and which safety medias are you looking at.
The question is that how vulnerable is Android to attack?
As I said, there are few people who have attended my previous talk which was regarding security issues in Android custom ROMs. So it's basically an open market right now. Either you put your faith into someone else's hand or you do your own job. Similar to what Linux is all about. Similar to what Windows is all about. Similar to what any OS is all about. You put faith into someone else and hope that he has not made a mistake.
Obviously, yes. And this is based on Ubuntu, right?
My VM is right now based on Ubuntu 10.04 LTS release. Yeah.
Recently we added the Backtrack 5 which runs on iPhone and Android also. So will you be the VM that you have, will you be making that available on the cell phone also? Where your PC can work on the cell phone itself?
It would be a more cumbersome approach, I suppose. I'm planning to do something similar, not exactly on that line, but that will have to wait for around 2-3 months. Wait for Nalpan. I might have a surprise for you.
Can I take out my existing ROM out of my device to do all sort of analysis?
Based on if your device is rooted or not. If it is rooted, you can actually extract it out. That's possible. That's a direct option. If you have a rooted device or you have a custom recovery installed, there is an option to take a backup. So when you take a backup, you actually get 3 or 4 different files. System.ilg, data.ilg, cache.ilg. These 3 files actually are the various folders inside your file system. So /system is kept inside system.ilg. That's where the UnyAFFS tool, which I discussed, comes into picture. You can use the UnyAFFS tool to decompile your system.ilg to extract all the folder contents. So that's there, but on a non-rooted device, I'm not sure.
Any file browser, if I could get it from market, which browses the system level?
Yeah, that's available. Root Explorer is there. There are a large number of file explorers which allow you to do all file browsing. The condition is, if you have root access, you can view all the contents. If you don't have root access, you can only see that there is a system folder, there is a data folder, there is a SD card folder, but you cannot move inside system folder, restricted areas, or data. Data is actually a folder which contains all the application related data, which is restricted to that application only. So you cannot browse around in it until and unless you are a root.
Okay. Is it like on Windows Mobile, even if you write an application, even if you have that SDK itself restricts you to browse through some system areas?
Yeah.
Does Android SDK stops you doing that?
See, you have been to Linux environment?
Not much.
Okay. In Linux environment, we have a permission model, wherein all the permissions are classified into user groups and others. So basically, all the folders which are to be restricted have a username which is actually the application, and they have the group name which is actually the application, and they don't have permissions for others. So basically, only the application can access that particular folder, or root user can access it, because he's the ultimate authority on that machine. That are the only 2 ways. To lock or logged? Locked bootloaders is actually a tricky stuff. Like I have seen various discussions going on regarding the extent bootloader which was logged. It got unlocked around 3 or 4 months back, but there were a lot of discussions going on, as in there are issues pertaining to legal side. Companies do not like it if you unlock the bootloader. Yeah. See, there are 2 ways. One is like if you look at the Google series, the Google Nexus or Google series, Google phone series, they have unlocked bootloaders. If you look at HTC, now they are unlocking the bootloaders. If you look at Sony Ericsson, they had a very rigid locked bootloader policies. They were not even allowing the source code to come out in the market. But now, for the 2011 and onwards phone, they are providing the unlocked bootloader capacities. So, for newer phones, yes, the companies are providing it. For others, there are 2-3 basic approaches. The bootloaders generally have a signing approach. They sign up your boot ROM and they check up the signature every time. So, you can look into the ways and means to bypass a certificate or create a fake certificate, which is not as easy as it sounds. So that is there. But yeah, bootloaders, if they are locked, are a pain.
This may be a little silly question because I'm not much familiar with Android.
Yeah.
But like the antiviruses or any security system that you have in an Android system. So because since Android is open source, basically you can edit everything. So does the antivirus have access to the ROM or not?
See, that depends on what permissions they are asking for.
So is that when you install it?
When you install an application on an Android device, you get a permission screen, which actually specifies that you are allowing this application to make calls, you are allowing this application to send SMSs, you are allowing this application to access root areas, whatever. Those permissions are listed out, and when you accept those all, then only the application is installed. So basically, you have to look at the permission model. If they are allowing it, if they are asking for it, yes, they can. And if they are asking for a root credentials or they are asking for root access, then yes, they have access to the whole system.
So have, if any of the systems have any rootkit